Rus Bradburd is one of a kind. She's one of the world's greatest dribblers.
Rus Bradburd is the hub of a wheel down here in the Southwest. He's got this incredible reputation as this ball handling wizard and teacher, renowned teacher of children, really. We wanted to start a basketball camp back in the early 80s after he started the mini dribbler program. Kids 7 to 10 years old, they come in as 7 years old as a freshman. They stay when they're 8, 9, 10 and leave as seniors at 10 years old. They do globetrotter tricks at halftimes at basketball games. They just knock the crowd out. People go crazy when they see these little kids doing all the tricks. So we had this camp thing going where we were making thousands of dollars, charging kids $200 a week. We worked for Coach Don Haskins here at University of Texas at El Paso. People were coming from all over the state of Texas and New Mexico and Arizona to be taught by Bradburd. Made a lot of money. So he came to me after we did this for a year or two and didn't feel comfortable with it. There were too many other camps charging $200 around the nation.
Rus really got involved with Rocky and his legacy after his death. He once called me and talked many things about how we could do some things to help Rocky continue to grow in this community.
And then Rus came to me and said, I don't like this. I'm teaching kids and charging them money. And there's kids in El Paso that can't afford to come to my camp. I want to help those kids instead. UTEP, all the local colleges and universities, they all have their camps that cost $200. Let the kids that can afford them go to those camps, but let's get down to the Barrio and help the kids that need some help. So we went to the Barrio, we charged each kid $1, and that's where the Basketball in the Barrio camp was born.
We're deep in the heart of Boy Bear country. And this morning, and it's good to see that basketball is alive and well in El Barrio.
Every year, all these people get together and they go down to the Segunda Barrio and they put together this camp. It's mostly kids from the Barrio, but they bring kids from all their other parts of El Paso. So you have this incredible mixture of economic classes, of these kids doing things together and playing. And it's not only about basketball, of course. If you're there for any length of time, you know it's not about basketball. Basketball is sort of like a scam. The real thing is about culture.
Our camp certainly is more unique and more special. Change things every 7 minutes. We'll drill the kids with the basketball drill between the legs, spin the ball on the finger for 7 minutes, and then boom, we're off to hearing a story. It's Joe Hayes from Santa Fe, the world famous storyteller.
No way, Jose.
Children see so much highly produced entertainment, television, video games, movies, that they have no interest in listening to stories. And that when you tell children stories, you realize that is not true. Children still enjoy listening to stories. It's an immensely satisfying experience for them.
Nothing happened.
And then Jose figured out what the problem was. You know what the problem was? The man couldn't speak Spanish. But it wasn't a big problem because Jose could speak 2 languages. He could speak Spanish and English. Any of you kids know how to speak 2 languages? It's wonderful to use a sport like basketball and focus on that interest that the children have in the physical activity, and then really stimulate their minds with introductions to different types of artists, different types of thinkers.
Greg Foster comes every year and says hello to the kids and gives wonderful stories about his days in the NBA, Garden Shack. We just have wonderful guests and lecturers that these kids otherwise would never meet. Nolan Richardson was here today. And Coach Nolan Richardson, one of El Paso's favorite sons of all time, comes in to camp unannounced. Says, I want to talk to your kids in the barrio. I grew up here. Nolan says, I grew up here. I want to talk to these kids. And in fact, he did. He grew up in that neighborhood 2 blocks from our gym. And he's been the only coach in history to win a junior college championship, an NIT championship, and the NCAA championship. And he is El Paso born and bred, and he's proud of it. $1 that we charge for basketball in the barrio is not about the free books from Cinco Puntos Press or the ice cream or the t-shirts, the basketballs we give to the kids. The $1 is really about this incredible cross-section of culture that we expose the kids to.
Yeah, some people say, we joke around back at the camp, that basketball in the barrio is the center of the universe, and everybody wants to come here to share and to learn, regardless of age or your background. You don't have to be a basketball player. You don't have to be a great coach, an incredible coach, or even a coach at all. You just want to be able to care for the kids and teach them the fundamentals of life, humanity, and basketball.
It's a beautiful thing for me. I'm being blessed right now. It's me that's being blessed. And it's just an honor for me to be here and coming back to the community and talk to the kids and be part of a great thing.
I met Coach Bradburd from Coach Drew Hinton. He's the coach of the New Mexico State Aggies. I met him at the camp for Pistoleros. He taught me a lot.
But the idea, the reason we bring Amanda is, if she can do it, then you can do it. I'm going to show you now one of my former dribblers, who I think is the best dribbler in the whole world for her age.
The thing I like most about basketball is probably dribbling, because it's so fun, and I like to shoot. Spider, I didn't know what that was until I met Russ. 2 balls I didn't know anything about. I couldn't dribble with my left hand. The first time I saw Russ dribble, he was awesome. He just blew me away. It was so cool. I wanted to be just like him, so I tried, and I practiced every day, 3 hours a day when I was little. Now I just do it 2 hours. Kind of get tired. He showed us like some routines that we do. We had to memorize them. And I'd go home and practice at my house. And I came back, I'd be better than I was the day before.
We've got great people, incredible people coming in from all places and walks of life all over the country. Debbie Weinreis, a European pro player in the Women's Pro Leagues of Europe, and Mike James, Athletes United for Peace. You know, Doug Harris.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I want everybody to remember that. Okay.
Who's heading the Athletes United for Peace. out on the West Coast in California. Great people, important people. We have David Megacy, who works as one of the directors of the NFL Players Association, flew in here from St. Louis after a meeting with the Rams. I mean, certainly he has more important things to do, you would think, but no, he thinks, I got to come and help Coach Rus out at basketball in the Barrio.
Rus and Mike were good friends, and so Mike told me about the camp, and Rus got a hold of me to ask me if I'd be interested in coming to the camp, and so that's how it started. It's been 8 years for me.
The reunion point of basketball in the Barrio is very important in that all these people are coming back that we might not necessarily see for the rest of the year, but they keep coming back, and I think it's because of Rus Bradburd and just the kind of caliber of person and coach in general that Rus Bradburd is. It keeps bringing all these just diverse people, different viewpoints, and we all work together towards trying to make this camp a success.
Basketball in the Barrio is now under the umbrella of a group called Athletes United for Peace. Athletes United for Peace goes all around the world doing track meets and midnight basketball and those kinds of things. The president of Athletes United for Peace...
Basketball in the Barrio was a natural fit for Athletes United for Peace because our executive director, Doug Harris, has been doing a number of basketball camps, clinics, and tournaments in the Bay Area over the last 15 years.
We saw that basketball in the Barrio was a wonderful example of what the mission of Athletes United for Peace was about. And so we talked to Rus, and we talked to Steve Yellen, who is Rus's friend and organizer of basketball in the Barrio, and we asked them if they would be interested in becoming the El Paso chapter of Athletes United for Peace. They agreed. It was our two missions, if you will, were almost identical, and so now basketball in the Barrio is, in some sense, a production of Athletes United for Peace, and it's just another part, another chapter in the country that is keeping that vision of what sports can be alive.
I saw Dave Megacy, who's the West Coast director of the NFL Players Association, on ESPN. And when I saw that, I said to myself, I have to interview this guy. Who is this guy? Because he was articulate and he was sharp and he didn't pull any punches. And I was like, this is exactly the kind of person I should be talking to.
In talking about Dave Zirin, he is, in my mind, an extension of a tradition, and he's a young man. And as Bob Lipsyte, who is one of the foremost sports journalists in the United States, has called Dave our best young sports journalist in the country.
Honestly, I looked him up on the web and found his email through AUP, through Athletes United for Peace. And I sent him an email and I said, I'd like to interview you and talk about your experiences around the anti-war movement in the 60s and why you quit the NFL, just all of that stuff. And what surprised me was Dave's response was I expected him to say something like what a lot of people who are big, what they do is they say, email me the questions and I'll answer them, which usually means their assistant answers them.
Zirin is definitely in league with the tradition of what I call progressive people in sport, who want to see sport in the spirit of Athletes United for Peace, that sport is a way to bring people together, it's a way to bring communities together legitimately.
What David did was he said, come on down to the NFLPA office and let's talk face to face. And I just had tremendous respect for that, that he was like, oh, this guy cares about the past and politics and history, and he's a young guy, therefore by default he's somebody I want to talk to. So I did this interview with Dave, and it got around a lot. It was very well received. It's in my book, What's My Name, Fool? I mean, I couldn't imagine a book without that interview with Dave Megacy, because it really was so influential on the whole thinking around doing the book. And Dave, literally, probably the second time we were talking, said to me, hey, have you ever heard of basketball in the Barrio? And I said, what are you talking about? Basketball in the Barrio, what does that mean? And he said to me, it's something we do every year in El Paso. And to me, El Paso, you might as well be talking about Tierra del Fuego. I've never been south of like Fredericksburg, Virginia. So it was just sort of like a very foreign concept. And just, and then Rus started emailing me, Rus Bradburd. And we just started talking a lot over email and a couple of times on the phone. And the more I talked to him, the more this seemed like a place that I should be for a lot of reasons. I mean, one, I think working with children is incredibly important. I taught first grade and third grade in Washington, D.C. for 4 years. And two, I really wanted to see for myself if the kids would respond to a kind of like progressive sports atmosphere.
Newly published book will be on the New York Times bestseller list for sure. David Zirin, welcome David Zirin. What's my name for? David, please stand up. Oh, how you doing? David's published on the internet daily with an article called The Edge of Sports. Please read his books. Thank you, David Zirin.
The camp is a pilgrimage for a number of us. It happens every year in June, and there are people from all over the country.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, Coach Rus Bradburd.
It's easy to forget all the things that Rus is involved with and does, and of course he's an author of his book, Paddy on the Hardwood, based on his 2 years of coaching professional basketball in Ireland. Where he went to study Irish fiddling. Rus is an incredibly accomplished bluegrass fiddler and now an Irish fiddler. He's also gone to the Memphis Grizzlies a training camp to give instruction to the professional NBA players on how to dribble a basketball or to better dribble a basketball.
He's teaching English right now at New Mexico State. So what can he do? He's working for this camp trying to help kids out. He's done that for years, wherever he's been, and he loves it. He loves being around kids.
I play basketball for the UTEP women's team. This camp is definitely different than any other camp I've been involved in over my years of playing basketball. A lot of the kids that are at the camp today, and you notice the ones that have on the red shirts. Now you got to remember, they were the guys in the yellow shirts a few years ago. Okay, they were small. I remember a lot of them being really small, and I worked with them, and Rus worked with them over the years over their ball handling skills, and they graduated. And Rus just promoted them, like to red shirt. And honestly, they're doing like a better job than we are, because they know exactly what they're doing. But that came over years of consistency of coming to the camp. So the red shirts are pretty much, they're the trainers. They're the ones that's running the camp. They know exactly what they're doing. They get to the stations. They don't ask any questions. One little guy, one Sean, he just takes over.
I went to basketball camp every summer from the ages of 13 to 16. Let me tell you what it was. 2.5 hours of basketball, lunch. 2.5 hours of basketball, film. 2.5 hours of basketball, sleep.
That to my parents was like good training. You need that, Do layups all day or shoot 100 3-pointers until we make 50 of them. Those are the camps that I went to when I was coming up. When I went to camp, oh no, it was no storytelling. They weren't telling us no stories. And talking about art, no, juice, cookies, come on.
I feel like stories, for one thing, they really stimulate kids' minds, and it makes better readers out of them. It makes them more interested in literature, and also there's something about stories that kind of draw kids in and kind of pull kids close to you, and just the way I guess kids are drawn to a coach.
In 2004, baseball fans rebelled against the placing of movie ads on Major League bases, while a number of athletes challenged the limits on what they are supposed to think and say. The round mound of sound, Charles Barkley spoke his mind.
Zirin is a tremendous sports writer. When he came down to basketball in the Barrio, I think his mind was blown because he had been through basketball camps himself, and this was something that he had never seen about how you could put together a camp that really would have a positive impact on people's lives apart from teaching them the rudiments of playing basketball.
We want to stop violence, we want to promote peace, and to do that we have peace posters. Now I'm going to go through what these posters are. You will get to choose one. After we go over the poster, I want you to give a round of applause if you think it's a poster that you might want to have. That's how we're going to do it. The first poster, Carlos Santana. Does anybody know who Carlos Santana is? Yes, sir.
Carlos Santana is a guitar player?
Yeah. That is correct. He is a guitar player, and this is of Carlos Santana with a peace sign, and this is a quote by Carlos Santana, and this is what he says. Life is for living, so why must we wait? We all need some loving, so then why do we hate? And this is the poster. Clap your hands if this is the poster. That is Carlos Santana. Next poster is of Roberto Clemente. Anybody know who that is? Roberto Clemente. Anybody know who Roberto Clemente is? This is a baseball player. All right, raise your hand on this one. Is he alive? Is he alive or is he not alive anymore? Now, yes, he played for the Pirates, very good, and he died in a plane trying to bring food and medicine to people who were hurt by a hurricane. So he really did die a selfless death, and he died a hero to many people. Now, Roberto Clemente, this is his quote, and I'll show you this. He said, "Anytime you have an opportunity to make things better and you don't, then you are wasting your time on earth." And this is Roberto Clemente. Guys trying to make the world a better place.
I talked to one of the kids today, an incredible 10-year-old girl named Amber Avila. And what Amber said to me was, she said, I love basketball, but basketball is just a game. And it's not just about me and what I love, it's about something that can be here for all these kids. But she also has an understanding that, basketball is not the be-all, end-all of life. And I think that's very important for kids to understand because, let's face it, you're growing up in the barrio, a lot of times you're sold a bill of goods that the only way out is through pro sports. And kids have more of a chance of going to Vegas and being dealt a royal straight flush than being a professional millionaire athlete. The odds are just insane. That doesn't mean kids shouldn't try, but it means that kids have to know that there are options.
There's more of a connection between sports and arts than we acknowledge most of the time. And I think a program like this really emphasizes that. But it's also a celebration of the city of El Paso, and especially a celebration of this neighborhood and this area, the richness of the culture in this part of the city of El Paso. It's amazing all the different ideas and presentations that they bring into this camp.
And this is one of the very first woodwind instruments ever.
I have to be honest with you, being at the camp this year, it's exceeded my every expectation, without question. It's been one of the great moving experiences of my young life to be here. I wouldn't trade this weekend for anything. I'll be back next year and I'm going to bring my wife and my baby, because frankly, this is the kind of atmosphere I want my baby to be around too.
Rus Bradburd and Steve Yellen, kind of like brothers. Two guys that could be referred to as native to El Paso, more so, I think, than many native El Pasoans. I mean, both are involved in so much good for this community. And again, I use this word a lot, and it's a word I really believe in. Both have passion for this community. Both have embraced this community and its culture and its heritage and its traditions. And I think because of it, this city and this area and its citizens are all the better for it.
And there are individuals who have been important in that aspect of sports. Rocky Galarza, Don Haskins, the Nolan Richardson, Rus Bradburd, all these people contributing to, I think, a very, in some sense, kind of almost a unique vision of sport and what it could be about. And as the saying goes, a lot of these folks weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth.
For too long. Also, so there's a long history here because of Rocky Galarza, and two guys are carrying on that tradition for us still today. Old Bowie High School classmates, Super Sanchez and Javier Diaz.
I was just thinking about it today when I was sitting there, and I was thinking, you know, this is almost impossible to really comprehend. I can see the hard work of all these volunteers and everybody willing to help, and I cannot even imagine, you know, why these people coming from way back in California just to help out. You know, it's this type of people, they're going to make this thing probably one of the best camps in America.
One of the traditions that we continue in the barrio here is to try and get newer or younger people to continue with the history of what has happened here, so it will not be forgotten.
The camp is our way of remembering Rocky Galarza, who trained kids for free for 30 years. And he didn't care how tall they were, or how talented they were, or anything else. He trained everyone the same. He was the world's most democratic coach. Everyone was the same to Rocky Galarza. And so I think Rocky would be really proud of us. So let's sort of hear from Rocky Galarza.
Rus, he's to me is a blessing that came around at the right time to keep a legend like Rocky alive. It's just my hat's off to Rus, because there's, you know, you have to have people that can continue to keep it going. Then Rocky's dying is not in vain.
And it's a beautiful thing because Rocky lives. Rocky lives.
One more time. El Paso's your land, El Paso's my land. From the Franklin Mountains to the Gilligan Canyon, from the Mission Valley to the Rio Grande, where they're saying El Paso's made for you and me. And they're saying El Paso's made for you and me. And they're saying El Paso's made for you and me.